Hey, welcome back to the Crabby Dice. Today we're looking at Mombasa. So this is a great game. This is going to be just the rules and setup video. If you want to go to the my thoughts and playthrough, click on the link below. It'll take you there. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. That'd be great. Let's make it a quick one and get started right away. Alright, the Mombasa setup. So normally I set the game up with you guys, but there's so many little bits in this one that I completely set it up, and I'll just show you what you have to do. So put out the game board, which is just the middle section here in the middle of the table, and now we're going to set up our tracks on the outside edge first. So there's going to be 4 different tracks, A, B, C, and D, but they're double-sided. There's a one side and a 2 side. So they give you these cards. What you can do is shuffle them and just turn them over, so you get a unique arrangement of 1s and 2s. And then you're going to take each of the cards and put them on the side of the board so that the arrow is pointing inwards, and this will tell you which lettered track will go there on which side it's going to be on. So for example, this track here is B2 because I would have had this card pointing inwards like that. So again, I could have had this one here, D2, so it's the D track with the 2 side. Alright, do that for all 4 sides, and then you can toss these in the game box. They're not used anymore. Now let's set up our card market. So the first thing you're going to do is there's 5 decks of cards here, all lettered A through E. Shuffle them each separately and then just stack one on top of the other. So D's on top of the E's, C's on top of the D's, and so on until A's on top of B's. That'll set up your whole deck for the rest of the game. Flip over the first 12 cards and just put them on the board. You can put your money on the side of the board. You can do the same thing with the books on the other side of the board. So there's 3 unique stacks, A's, B's, and C's. Make sure they're all not shown. And then you're going to fill up the A, B, and C books on the game board. Next, the round counter on top here. Depending on the number of players, you'll set it up differently. So if you're playing a 4-player game, put 2 coins on every single one. On a 2-player game, put 1 coin on every single one. And in a 3-player game like we're doing now, put 2 coins on round 2, 4, and 6. Alright, you put your bonuses on the right hand side here. That deals with this over here. During the game you can buy some bonuses that you'll have for the next round. And that's about it for the game board. So let's go to our player board area. You'll give each player a colored, you're going to see by the top here, colored board. Give them a diamond to put on the diamond space right over here. You'll give them their deck of 9 cards. You can tell it's their color by the icon in the top right. Everyone's going to have a special card here. You're going to look at the top right. There's 4 of them. It counts from 1 through 4. You're going to give them in player number order. So first player will get the number 1, player 2 will get number 2. So I'll simulate that purple's first player. He'll get this card. After that, you'll give every player 2 of these starting tiles. Okay, they'll pick one, toss the other one back in the box, and this is going to tell you your initial setup for the game. All right, you put your inkwell on it, and then you'll set up your initial rest cards up here. So using the same icons on the top here, you'll fill it up. So here I need 2 banana, 1 banana, and 2 travel. So you go. Just like that, you've set up his rest area. He can keep the rest of his cards in his hand. You'll give each player 2 of these thicker cylinders in a 3 and 4 player game. You'll give each player 1 coin. This is the first player marker. I forgot to give it the purple. And lastly, you're going to set up their initial spots on all the 4 tracks. Alright, they're going to be on the 0 space for all of them except for their initial bonus that's written on their tiles. So for example, this one says Cairo +2. So on the Cairo track up here, I would move up 2 extra spaces. I already did that for all 4 players. And we're done. We're ready to go. Let's look at the rules. Alright, welcome to the rules overview for Mombasa. So it's kind of hard to explain how this game works at a high level. Alright, it doesn't have a really named mechanic, but it's sort of hand management and action selection. So every round there's going to be a certain amount of cards that we're going to be using to activate or power our actions for the round. Okay, those actions could be many things: getting new cards, activating bonuses, moving ourselves on the tracks, buying books, doing a bunch of things on our player boards like books and moving ourselves on the diamond track, and so on and so on. So lots of things going on. So how do you win this game? Well, it's a euro, so you're trying to make the most money possible. But it is sort of like a train game where you have shares. So a ton of your points are actually going to be dictated by how many shares you have in a company. So you're going to see that companies will start getting more valuable by uncovering these houses to make their shares worth more. And wherever you are on the track will sort of dictate how many shares you have of that company. So you'll calculate your total shares. You'll also calculate some of the spots you have moved up to on the book and diamond tracks, add it to your money, and that's going to be your final score. Okay, so sort of that's how you win. The game is going to last only 7 rounds, so the round tracker is up here. And in those 7 rounds, you're going to do the same 3 phases every time, right? So there's a preparation phase, then phase 2 is actually doing all your actions. So in turn order, you're going to be doing an action each. And then phase 3 is sort of a reset phase. Alright, so let's go into each of those phases one by one, and I'll go into detail. Alright, phase 1 is the preparation phase. That's where we're going to be using the cards in our hand and sort of selecting the cards that we want to bring into phase 2, which is the action phase. Alright, so this phase could actually be done simultaneously between all the players. I'll just show you how that's done. We're going to go to our player board area. And what we're going to do is put cards underneath our player boards for the slots we've unlocked. So at the start of the game, you've only unlocked 3 spots here, so you can put 3 cards. But I'll just tell you now, I won't mention it later in the video, but if your inkwell ever reaches this space or exceeds it, you'll unlock this card slot here. Same thing for the diamond. If you reach this space or pass it, you'll unlock another card slot here. So you can have up to 5 card slots at the bottom of your player board. Alright, but at the start of the game, or until that happens, you can only place 3 cards. So simultaneously, everyone's going to take 3 cards in your hand, put them face down in this slot. It won't make sense until I explain the actions later, but something I might do is, let's say I want to do a lot of coffee actions next turn, or have a lot of coffee. I might do something like this. Alright. Now, when everyone says ready, and everyone's done this, and everyone's ready to go, you can flip over their cards, alright, without changing them. And there you go. There are some considerations that I'll explain later, but for right now, all you need to know is you're lining up 3 cards, and that's it. You're ready to go to the next phase. Let's talk about it. Alright, phase 2 is the action phase. So starting with the first player, whoever has this marker, and working clockwise, doing 1 action each, you're just going to keep going around until everyone's passed. Alright? There are 6 different actions in the game, but remember from phase 1, you need to consider that some of the actions will not be applicable to you if you didn't bring in the correct or requirement cards from the previous phase. So let's go into each of those 6 actions in detail. Alright, the first action you can do is using any goods cards that are in your action area down here to do things on the board. Alright, so you're activating only one type of good and you have to use all the cards of that type. So for example, down here below I have cotton and coffee. So the 2 things you can do on the game board with your goods is buying cards, and the cost of a card is in the bottom right plus whatever is printed on the board, and or moving on the tracks around the board. Okay, so for example, if I want to activate my coffee here, it would be 3 goods. I can purchase a card that would cost 3 or less. So let's say this banana would cost 2, it's 2 plus 0. I would take this directly into your hand, so anything you purchase goes directly into your hand for use in the next turn. And then if you had any excess goods, you can still use them to move up the track. So I had an excess of 1, I can move myself up on any track 1 time. Alright, once you purchase a card, nothing gets filled up just yet. That happens in phase 3. And once you use your goods, you flip them over on your action area, just to remind yourself that you've used those cards. Alternatively, if I didn't want to buy a card, I could have used all those 3 goods to move myself up on the tracks entirely. So you can move up on one track 3 times, or twice on one and once on another, or on 3 different tracks 1 time. So you can use those movements however you like. Just as an added note, I'll talk about it later too, there are some spots that you do have to pay if you want to move up on. So for example, if I was here and I had to move 1 time on this track, you need to turn in $5 to do so. Alright, we'll go into more detail later on in scoring about that. But that's essentially what you're doing with your goods tiles. So you're going to pick one good and then use their action points or their value on the game board. When it came back to my turn, I would use my 2 cotton to either again buy a card or move myself up on the tracks. Alright, the second action you can do is using your expansion cards. So you must use all your expansion cards at once and not split them up over multiple actions. So in this example is 3. And what you're going to do is expand from one company and one company only. Alright, you can't expand from multiple companies in the same action. Alright, so this example I'll focus only on red. Alright, so the whole point of expanding is to collect rewards on the game board when you move into that region. Okay, so some rules for placement: you can only place adjacent to where the company already is. So for example, I can't place red up here because they're not adjacent to any spots up there. When taking houses from the company's general stock, you always take from top down, so you can select any column but just take the topmost house. And for displacement, which means returning them back to the general supply, you do the opposite, so it's bottom up. Alright, but a very special rule, I'll mention it now, is you can never recover up the bottommost spot of a column. You just skip it and just put it above. Okay, so when expanding, how to use up those points is every white line costs 1 expansion point, a dark line costs 2 expansion points, and displacing, returning a house from another company costs an extra expansion point on top of that. So some examples that I can show you on the board is I can do 1, 2, 3 if I had 3 expansion points and return that house back to black. Or I can do 1, 2, 3 because I'm crossing over only white lines. Or I can just do this move and return this, and this would cost 3 because this would cost 2 to cross over and 1 to displace this black house. I could have also done 1, 2, 3. So 1 for the white line and 2 for the black line. So there are 4 different icons on the map that you can get. So those are the rewards. So there are money icons, so that you'll just take money from the general supply. There's track advancements, very important. You move up the track of the colored house you moved in. So for example, by moving in a red house, I would move up twice on the red track. If I was purple, I'd move up twice here. There are diamonds. You just move up on your own player board that many diamonds around the track. And lastly, there are bookkeeping points. These are the blue icons here. You'll pick up that value of books from the general supply and add them to your personal supply. We'll talk about all of that during the next type of action you can do. Alright, so those are the 4 different things that can happen on the game board. Just as a general strategy and a note is you're sort of removing these houses because the coins that are going to be shown is the value of the company. So if all of a company's houses are on the game board, the value of their shares are super high because each share would be worth the total sum of all the coins in their general area here. Alright, don't forget to turn over your expansion cards when you're done with them. Alright, the third action you can do on your turn is using a bookkeeping card. This action is all about moving your inkwell as far down the track as you can. Alright, so when you activate the card, just follow the card from top down. So the first thing you can do is pay $2 to flip over any book you want. A book that's flipped over will automatically be satisfied when you're validating it, moving your inkwell. So in this example here, I can pay $2, let's just say, to flip over this book. And next, you're going to move your inkwell, which means you're going to check the books one by one, and if you can satisfy the book, you move your inkwell forward. Now you can stop at any point or just keep going until you can't satisfy the next book. So in this example here, for this book, you need 2 cotton in your general action area here, which you do. So you just move your inkwell over. The next one needs 2 cotton and 2 bananas, which I have. They're all available. So I'll go here. Same thing for the next one, 2 cotton, 1 banana, which I have. I have at least one, I have 2, so just keep going. As I mentioned, a book that's flipped over, I automatically satisfy. And the 4 crate here just means having 4 goods in total in my actions area down here, which I do, 2 plus 2. So I move on to the next one. But unfortunately, the next one requires me to have a 2 exploration card and a 2 coffee, which I don't have as a requirement. So I cannot move my inkwell to the next one. Now, when your inkwell stops or didn't move, you collect the reward on the bottom right of the book that you're at. All right. So there's 3 types of goods you can get as a reward. There's money, there's diamonds, moving yourself up on the diamond track, and there's bookkeeping points that you can use to purchase more books. Okay. After moving your inkwell, you always end up getting more bookkeeping points to use to buy more books. I didn't mention it earlier, but all A's and B's cost 1 booking point each. The C's all cost 2 bookkeeping points each because they're easier to satisfy. If you purchase multiple books in a round, you don't refill right away, you refill when you're done purchasing. And rules for placement on your own board here is you can place them anywhere you want, but as a general strategy is try to keep them as close to your inkwell so that you don't have any empty spots to have to wait when you're moving your inkwell forward, right? So if you had a book here and here and not here, you wouldn't be able to move your inkwell more than this book because this spot would be empty. All right, when you're done the action, like every other action, don't forget to turn it over. Another general strategy, very important, is moving your inkwell checks the goods you currently have displayed on your action board here. So it's not advisable to use the goods to purchase cards or move up tracks before performing the bookkeeping action because they'll be face down and they won't count towards the validation of the books. All right, so you'd want to, in general, always perform this action before using your goods in your other action. All right, the 4th action you can do is using a diamond merchant. Just a note, you don't start with a diamond merchant in your original 9 cards. You'll have to purchase your first one. All right, but the way these work is they're all about advancing on the diamond track here. So the first thing you'll do is satisfy what's on the left here, so you'll move yourself up 2 on the track. And you'll collect the money from the general supply. After that, a diamond merchant might have an ability on the right here. So for this one, it means check the black company, which is Mombasa, and look for any mine icons. And for every 2, you'll move up an extra 1. So I'll check the Mombasa company, and they do have 2 mine icons, so there and there. So I'll move up an extra 1 on the diamond track. After performing the action, just like every other action, turn over the card. All right, the 5th action you can do on your turn is using your bonus discs. And this introduces a whole slew of actions on the board. All right, I'm gonna have to go into each one and sort of explain you the rules and what it actually does. But there are action areas all over here, and there are also some on the tracks themselves. I'm not gonna go into detail on the ones on the tracks, go look in the rules, but the main or rule about them is your token has to be past that location to use the ability. All right, so until my token has passed this spot, I can't put my bonus disc as right there. Okay, let's talk about the ones that are on the game board. So the first spot here is anyone except for the first player's first placement can place their token here to be first player next turn. This is the only way for the first player to change hands. After taking the first player marker, you get 1 bookkeeping point that you'll be able to spend up there. All right. The second spot over here is whenever you see a -1 coin on the bonus spot itself, you need to pay. So here it's going to cost you 1 coin to place your bonus disc here. And this basically means you get to buy a card using money instead of goods. So if the total good cost was 2, you'll pay 2 coins instead of 2 goods to take the card. The next spot over here is you remove a card from your hand from the game, and you'll gain money equal to the good cost on the bottom right plus 2. So just an example, I can remove this card from the game and I get 3 coins from the general supply because it would be 1 plus 2. Let's talk about the next 4 over here. These 4, you don't get an immediate bonus. You get one of these bonus cards to use on the following turn. Alright, so the first one costs you $1 and you'll take the +1 good tile. Focus. So this one, you in the next preparation phase, you get to assign it to one of your cards to act like a +1. So if you assign it to a 2 coffee, it'll be a 3 coffee, let's just say. You cannot move it to another good afterwards. It has to be stuck to that good for the rest of the round. This spot here gets you a bookkeeper here. It's just a standard one. It acts just like the one in your hand. It does cost $2 though. Another $2 option here is getting a diamond merchant, who always gives you an advancement of 2 plus 1 for any other diamond merchant you might have on your action board. And the last one here costs 2 and it gives you 2 exploration points that you can use. Just as a general note, all of these 4 options don't actually count to your 3 card limit. It would be a tile on the side that you can either activate as your 4th card or 5th or 6th card. Okay. Now we're going to get to the max bonus locations over here. So these ones can only be activated if you have the most between all the players at the table. So in this example here, let's say I had 3 cotton and that was the most around the table. I would be able to place my bonus disc on the max cotton. And this deals with all the ones that are currently face up between all the players. So let's say somebody would have used their cotton to buy a card or move along the tracks, and now 3 would be the most. Then I'd still be eligible to place my disc there. All right. The reward for placing any disc in this section is you're going to look at what your total of that good is and just move up on the tracks. So for example, for 2 cotton, I'd move up on the St. Louis track twice. For 4 cotton, I'd move up 3 times and get a house removal from any company. And for 6, I'd move up 4 times and get a bookkeeping point. Alright, they sort of all work the same way. So you have 1 per company. So there's a Cairo one, so you move up that track there. St. Louis, you move up this track here. Cape Town to move up this track here. And finally Mombasa to move up that track there. This one deals with expansion points. So whoever has the most expansion points would get to put their token here. Now, I think it goes without saying, I didn't mention it, but all the bonus token areas everywhere on the game board are first come first serve. So as soon as somebody's taken that spot, nobody else can take that bonus. Alright, so by taking first player, nobody else would be able to take that bonus. By being max on the bananas, nobody else would be able to take that bonus. So those are all the bonus actions. I'm not going to touch again on the ones for the tracks. Just look at the manual. They're pretty self-evident by looking at the icons. For example, this one you'd pay 2 coins to either get 1 bookkeeping point and 2 diamonds, or 2 bookkeeping points and 1 diamond. There you go. And finally, we get to the 6th action, which is your personal reset action. So that's going to happen when you did all your actions. So basically when all your cards have been flipped over. So you're going to follow the same 3 steps. First, you're going to pick one of the resting piles above your player board and return it to your hand. So let's say this one. Next, you're going to flip over all the action cards you used that round. And lastly, you're going to move them all to the resting piles directly above them. This one will go here, this one will go here, this one will go here. So as you can see, which cards you placed in which slot during the preparation phase is very important, because those are the cards that will get shifted up in the exact same column. Also, as an added note, if you did open up slots 4 and 5 on the left here, those cards will go up into the resting areas here and there. Alright. Finally, we get to phase 3, which is sort of the game reset. Alright, so you're going to do 3 things. First, we're going to look at the turn tracker up here. The turn you're going into is going to have coins available on it. You're going to move those coins down to either the top row or the bottom row. So if there's 2 coins, you fill up both rows, and if there's only 1 coin, you fill up only the top row. So in this example, let's say we're starting round 2. You're going to bring both those coins down. Now, it goes without saying, in the future, if you pick up this book or that book, it'll come along with a coin to your personal supply. Alright, next we're going to take care of the card market. Very simple. Anything currently in the right column here is going to be removed from the game, and then you shift everything to the right. Alright, you start refilling always from the right to the left and then working top down. So nothing here, and then you'll work second column here, and then you'll fill up the last column. Alright, that's ready to go. And lastly, you'll pick up all your bonus discs that you might have on tracks or in this section down here. At this point, if you pull it off one of the bonus tiles here, that's when you actually get the bonus. Not when you placed it during phase 2, but now. Alright, so let's say I had a token here. I'll get this and put it in my player area for next turn. And there you go, we're ready for next round. Alright, so those are all the rules. Sorry for the super long explanation, but we finally reached the end of the game and we need to score. So like I had mentioned in the overview, you're trying to have the most money at the end of the game to win. Alright, but most of that cash is going to be represented by shares in a company. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is go through all the cards in your rest area, in your hand, and in your action area, and look for cards that have shares at the bottom of the cards. So they can be cards like that, or they can be cards like this with the shares at the bottom. Okay, you're gonna take all those cards out because those cards are gonna add to your share value. Okay, so the math is pretty simple. You're gonna total your shares of that company multiplied by the value of that company. The value of the company is how much coins is currently being shown in that area of the company. So for example here, 1 2 3 4 5 6, this company is worth 6 coins. In this example, I've crossed this 4 share line here. Let's say I had 2 more shares on cards in my play area, so I'd have 6 shares. So the value that I have for red would be 6 times 6, 36. You'll do that for all 4 companies. Alright, that'll be a bulk of your points. You'll also score points where your inkwell has reached on the track. So here I cross this line, so I scored 15. You'll also score where your diamond reached on the track. So here I cross this line, so you'll score 25, for example. And lastly, you'll score how much cash you have at the end, which might not be a lot. There you go. That's your grand total. You'll compare that to the other players and figure out who won. Alright, click the link below for the playthrough and my thoughts on the game. If not, I'll just see you on the next video. Later.